He walked into the veterinary clinic with a dusty face and a limping pony by his side, and one look was all it took for the veterinarian to start laughing. They said that place was too sophisticated for people like him. But everything changed when the doctor looked at the chart and saw the boy's last name. Subscribe to our channel now and discover how a simple country boy silenced everyone with just one name. The sky that spring morning was still grey when Matthew crossed the imposing, ornate iron gates of Horizon Equestrian Veterinary Clinic, the most prestigious establishment in Barrington, rural Texas. The difference between the world he belonged to and the one he had just entered was striking. His worn boots, covered with dried mud from Hope Ranch, contrasted with the polished marble floor of the luxurious reception area. Beside him, a small pony was visibly limping. Even with its dirty coat and tangled mane, its black eyes remained proud. The boy, in simple clothes and a faded local rodeo cap covering part of his face, didn't ask for permission. He simply said what was essential in his voice, carrying the typical Texas accent. "I need someone to see my pony. He's hurt." Leslie, the receptionist with perfectly manicured nails, hesitated between a judgmental look and doubt about how to proceed. Her eyes nervously traveled from the boy to the animal, and then to the elegant wall clock marking almost 9 in the morning. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked, adjusting her expensive framed glasses. "No, but it's urgent. Little Thunder can't put weight on his right leg since yesterday." The name given to the pony drew a restrained smile from the receptionist, who immediately picked up the phone to contact the doctor in charge. Meanwhile, other clients waited with their purebred horses in the outdoor area, all with scheduled appointments and all visibly uncomfortable with the boy's presence. Dr. Henry Morgan, chief veterinarian and owner of the clinic, descended the mezzanine steps with calculated movements. He was a tall man with an impeccable appearance, known not only for his technical expertise, but also for his constant presence on social media, where he presented himself as a defender of American equestrian excellence. Upon encountering the small animal and the boy in the center of the luxurious reception, he displayed a mocking smile that he didn't try to hide. "We treat champion horses here, not farm pets," he muttered disdainfully, looking at the wealthy clients as if sharing an inside joke. "There's a county clinic 15 miles from here. They can handle this type of case." Matthew's face remained impassive under the shadow of his cap. Without showing any reaction to the public humiliation, he bent down to stroke the pony's neck before opening the worn backpack he carried. From inside, he pulled out an embossed paper envelope that he handed to the veterinarian. "My father said to give this to you, sir." Dr. Morgan took the envelope with visible disinterest, but his expression changed dramatically when he recognized the emblem of Anderson Agricultural Enterprises, one of the largest producers of animal genetics in the country, and, just below, the signature of Augustus Anderson, a legendary figure in American agribusiness. "You're Augustus's son?" he asked, his voice now significantly lower. "Yes, sir, Matthew Anderson." The revelation caused a sepulchral silence in the reception area. The Andersons weren't just a wealthy family. They were an institution in rural Texas, owners of ranches that stretched across 3 states and controllers of an empire that, by choice, kept away from the media spotlight. Augustus was known for preferring discreet work over exposure, exactly the opposite of Dr. Morgan's approach. "Why didn't you say so before?" questioned the veterinarian, now with a forced smile on his face. "You didn't ask," Matthew replied simply. "I came for Thunder, not because of my last name." The change in the veterinarian's attitude was immediate and absolute. With exaggerated gestures, he called 2 assistants and an intern, ordering them to prepare the best examination room. The little pony, which minutes before was considered unworthy of that space, suddenly became the establishment's priority. "We'll personally take care of your Thunder," stated Dr. Morgan, leading Matthew through the clinic's immaculate corridors. "It's an honor to receive an Anderson here. Your father is a legend in our agribusiness." Matthew merely nodded, showing neither pride nor resentment. His concern was completely focused on the animal, as if the rest, including the preferential treatment he now received, was completely irrelevant. In the examination room, the veterinarian transformed into a meticulous professional. He examined the pony with exaggerated attention, taking photographs, making detailed notes, and requesting a complete battery of tests, courtesy of the house, as he repeatedly emphasized. "How did this happen?" he asked while carefully palpating the animal's leg. "I'm not entirely sure. Yesterday morning he was fine, running around the pasture as usual. In the afternoon, when I went to feed him, he was already like this. I thought it might be a sprain or something he stepped on, but I've never seen him so downcast." A young intern named Paige observed everything with special attention. Unlike the other employees, who seemed dazzled by the presence of the Anderson heir, she showed genuine interest in the clinical case. Her eyes alternated between the pony and the notes she quickly made on a pad. "We'll need some complementary tests," said Dr. Morgan, addressing the prestige of the last name more than the boy himself. "X-rays, ultrasound, complete blood work. Everything to ensure we identify exactly what's happening." "How long will it take?" asked Matthew, stroking the pony's mane to calm him. "For any other client, days. For you, we'll have preliminary results today," replied the veterinarian with a calculated smile. "Meanwhile, you can leave Thunder with us. We have the best facilities in the state." It was at this moment that Paige, the intern, timidly interrupted. "Doctor, I think we should also investigate possible toxicities. The symptoms don't seem consistent with just a traumatic injury." The veterinarian shot an irritated look at the young woman, but quickly masked his annoyance with a forced smile. "Of course, Paige, we'll investigate all possibilities. Now please prepare the materials for the blood draw." When the intern walked away, Dr. Morgan approached Matthew with a confidential tone. "Sorry for the interruption. Interns, you know how it is, always trying to show off." "I think she might be right," responded Matthew with the direct simplicity of someone who grew up closer to animals than social conventions. "Thunder has never had problems with his legs before, and he stopped eating since yesterday. That's not normal for him." The comment caught the veterinarian by surprise. He expected to find in young Anderson the same arrogance he saw in the children of other agribusiness magnates who frequented his clinic. But Matthew showed nothing beyond genuine concern for the pony's well-being, as if the rest, including his family's power and influence, was completely secondary. At the end of that morning, when the first examinations were performed, a shadow of concern crossed Dr. Morgan's face as he analyzed the preliminary results. Something wasn't right. The blood values showed anomalies that didn't match a simple traumatic injury. "We'll need a few more days to complete the diagnosis," he said, avoiding details. "But you can rest assured that your pony is in the best hands." Matthew nodded, but something in the veterinarian's look left him uneasy. "Can I come visit him tomorrow?" Of course," replied Dr. Morgan, already thinking about the connections he could establish with the Andersons through this boy. "Our clinic is always open for the family." As Matthew said goodbye to the pony, promising to return the next day, he didn't notice the concerned look that Paige, the intern, cast at the test results on the table. There was something in those numbers that deeply troubled her, something she didn't have the courage to verbalize yet, but which made her make a silent decision. She would investigate this case on her own, even if it meant challenging her boss. What none of them knew at that moment was that little Thunder would be just the beginning of a revelation that would shake the foundations of the renowned Horizon Equestrian Veterinary Clinic and change the course of their lives forever. 3 days passed since Matthew had left little Thunder at the clinic. During each visit, he noticed different movements in the establishment. Employees whispered in the corridors. Dr. Morgan seemed increasingly solicitous, almost artificially attentive, and Paige, the intern, avoided direct eye contact, as if hiding something. On the morning of the 4th day, Matthew arrived earlier than usual. The sky was just beginning to brighten when he parked his bicycle next to the side gate of the clinic, used only by employees. This time he wasn't wearing his worn cap, and his brown hair was combed back, revealing features that evidenced his Anderson lineage. The defined chin and almond-shaped eyes he had inherited from his father. He was received by Dr. Morgan personally, who was waiting for him at the entrance as if he had been alerted to his arrival. "Matthew, good to see you. I have news about Thunder," he announced with enthusiasm that didn't match the tension in his eyes. The veterinarian led him to his private office on the second floor, an environment decorated with trophies, international certificates, and photographs, alongside celebrities from the equestrian world. He sat behind an impressive solid wood desk and indicated the chair in front for the boy. "The complete test results arrived last night," he began, handling a folder of documents without really opening it. "As we suspected, it's not a simple injury." Matthew remained silent, waiting. "Thunder shows signs of progressive toxicity," continued the veterinarian, carefully choosing his words. "We found substances in his bloodstream that are not compatible with natural feeding or common environmental exposure." "Was he poisoned?" Matthew asked directly, concern showing in his usually controlled voice. Dr. Morgan cleared his throat, visibly uncomfortable with the boy's directness. "It's a possibility we're investigating, but don't worry, we've already started treatment. To reverse the effects and—" "I want to see the tests," interrupted Matthew. The veterinarian hesitated for a moment, but realized he had no choice. He opened the folder and slid some papers toward the young man. Matthew examined them with an attention that surprised the doctor. For a 16-year-old boy, he demonstrated unusual knowledge about laboratory results. "These levels are consistent with organophosphates," commented Matthew, pointing to a specific section of the report. "We studied this in the agricultural technical course I'm taking at the Agricultural Technical School." Dr. Morgan swallowed hard. He didn't expect the boy to have the technical knowledge to interpret the tests. "Yes, exactly. We detected traces of organophosphate compounds, which are common in some pesticides but we don't use that type of product at Hope Ranch," Matthew cut in again. "My father implemented organic management more than 5 years ago. It doesn't make sense." The silence that followed was interrupted by a soft knock on the door. Paige, the intern, entered carrying a tray with water and coffee. Her gaze quickly crossed with Matthew's, communicating something that the veterinarian couldn't capture. "Thank you, Paige, you can leave it there," said Dr. Morgan, dismissing her with an impatient gesture. But before leaving, the young woman discreetly placed a small folded piece of paper under the water glass she offered to Matthew. The gesture was so subtle that it went unnoticed by the veterinarian, absorbed in his own concerns. "As I explained, we're investigating all possibilities," continued Dr. Morgan, regaining control of the situation. "There could have been contamination in the water, in some food he consumed outside your property, or even what?" questioned Matthew, pocketing the note without the veterinarian noticing. "Or even deliberate action," concluded the doctor, carefully observing the boy's reaction. "There are cases, unfortunately, of sabotage in the equestrian world. Competitions, rivalries." Matthew frowned. "Thunder is just a pony rescued from abuse. He doesn't participate in competitions or have any commercial value. Who would bother?" The question hung in the air like an implicit accusation, creating an uncomfortable atmosphere that the veterinarian tried to dispel with a rehearsed smile. "These are just hypotheses, Matthew. The important thing is that we are treating Thunder with the best we have. In fact, I've initiated a detoxification protocol that we normally reserve for international competition horses." The conversation was interrupted by the phone ringing. Dr. Morgan answered, clearly relieved by the interruption. After a brief exchange of words, he hung up with a concerned expression. "I need to resolve an urgent matter. Feel free to visit. Thunder in the main stable. Paige can accompany you." As soon as the veterinarian left, Matthew took the note from his pocket and unfolded it. The handwriting was small and hurried. "Meet me at the supply depot at 11 a.m. It's important. Don't mention it to anyone." At the appointed time, Matthew discreetly headed to the depot located at the back of the clinic. Paige was already waiting, for him visibly nervous, constantly checking if anyone was watching them. "We don't have much time," she said in a low voice. "What we found in Thunder's blood isn't accidental. The substance comes from a food supplement that the clinic provides exclusively for some animals." "How did you discover this?" "I compared the components with the laboratory samples. Last night I came back alone and redid some tests. The same batch of supplement that was being given to Thunder shows abnormal concentrations of a compound that..." in small doses is harmless, but with continuous use, causes the symptoms he's showing, completed Matthew, connecting the pieces. Exactly. And the worst part, this supplement is sold exclusively by the distributor that belongs to Dr. Morgan himself. He has a parallel company that supplies several clinics in the region. Matthew processed the information in silence. His gaze, normally serene, acquired an intensity that made Paige take a step back. Why are you telling me this? You could lose your internship, your career. Paige hesitated before answering. Because I chose to be a veterinarian to save animals, not to get rich by slowly poisoning them to ensure recurring clients. The revelation hit Matthew like a punch. The idea that a professional could deliberately harm the animals he swore to protect was revolting, but it perfectly explained the situation. I need concrete evidence, he said after a moment of reflection. Something I can take to the proper authorities. Paige bit her lower lip, unsure. I have some samples of the supplement and copies of the original results before Dr. Morgan altered them, but I don't know if it's enough for a formal complaint. It will be a start, replied Matthew with a determination that went beyond his 16 years. My father knows people on the State Veterinary Medical Board and in the Department of Agriculture. In the days that followed, the clinic began to receive regular visits not only from Matthew, but also from respected figures in the agricultural and legal sectors. They arrived discreetly, always accompanying young Anderson, and held long closed-door conversations with Dr. Morgan, who emerged from these meetings increasingly pale and tense. The news that the Anderson heir was visiting the Horizon Equestrian Veterinary Clinic daily began to circulate in Barrington's social circles. Journalists specializing in agribusiness tried to discover the reason for these visits, especially because the Andersons were known for their discretion and for maintaining their own veterinary facilities on their ranches. On one of these days, Matthew arrived at the clinic accompanied by a serious-looking man who introduced himself only as Dr. Fernando, a specialist in veterinary toxicology. What no one at the clinic knew was that he was also one of the main consultants to the district attorney's office in cases of fraud in the agricultural sector. Meanwhile, in the main stable, Little Thunder was beginning to show signs of recovery after the change in treatment protocol, now personally supervised by Paige, who meticulously documented each step and kept duplicate samples of every medication administered. The tension increased when the Agribusiness Journal published a note questioning the relationship between the clinic and recent cases of mysterious illness in high-value horses in the region. The article didn't mention the Anderson name, but insinuated that an influential family was discreetly investigating potentially negligent or fraudulent practices. Dr. Morgan, who previously proudly displayed his media appearances, now avoided any contact with the press. His social media posts, once daily, ceased completely. Employees reported episodes of extreme irritability and commented on long phone calls locked in his office. The most significant turning point occurred when Paige, after weeks of documenting evidence and suffering increasing internal pressure, decided to take definitive action. On a rainy afternoon, while the clinic was exceptionally empty, she copied onto a flash drive all the internal records she had gathered. Spreadsheets of purchases of adulterated inputs, modified original reports, emails exchanged between Dr. Morgan and suppliers questioning the prolonged efficacy of the supplements. That same evening, she handed the flash drive to Matthew during a visit to Thunder. "This is everything I managed to gather," she said, her voice trembling. "Are you sure you want to proceed with this? Dr. Morgan has powerful connections in the industry." Matthew carefully stored the device. "Thunder is just a rescued pony. How many valuable horses went through this without anyone noticing? How many animals suffered because they trust those who should protect them?" Paige nodded, understanding that this had become much larger than a single case of toxicity. It was a matter of principles, professional ethics, justice for beings who couldn't speak for themselves. "What will you do now?" she asked, fearing. The answer. "What my father taught me since I was little," replied Matthew with the simplicity that characterized him. "Do the right thing, even when no one is watching." What he didn't know was that his next steps would trigger a series of events that would forever transform not only the Horizon Equestrian Veterinary Clinic, but the entire animal health sector in the region, revealing a scheme much larger than any of them could imagine. The next morning, Matthew arrived at the clinic accompanied by Julia Barnes, an environmental attorney who worked with the Andersons on conservation projects. "I analyzed all the material," she said as they crossed the parking lot. "The evidence is consistent and extremely concerning." As they entered the reception area, they immediately noticed that something had changed. Employees were moving hurriedly and phones were ringing unanswered. Leslie, the receptionist, seemed visibly disturbed. "Agri-News TV is outside," she explained, nervously adjusting her glasses. "They want to interview Dr. Morgan about allegations of irregular practices." Before she could complete the sentence, the main doors opened. Christine Montgomery, owner of North Star Stables, entered, accompanied by her husband, both with expressions of indignation. "Where is Henry?" she demanded. "I want explanations about what happened to Fantasy." The name mentioned made Matthew and Julia exchange glances. Fantasy was a national champion, mare who had recently made headlines for her early retirement due to unexplained health complications. Dr. Morgan came out of his office trying to maintain professional composure. "Christine, Richard, let's talk in private," he tried. "There's nothing to discuss in private," retorted Richard Montgomery. "We just received the results from the clinic in Houston. Fantasy was progressively poisoned with the same substances found in the supplements that you insisted we use." The revelation caused silence in the reception area. Dr. Morgan turned pale. "This is absurd. Our clinic follows the most rigorous standards and—" "The same standards you applied to Little Thunder," interrupted Matthew, "a rescued pony who showed the same symptoms after receiving your supplements." All eyes turned to the young man. Christine recognized him immediately. "You're Augustus's son. What's happening here?" It was at this moment that Paige entered the reception area with a folder of documents. Perceiving the tension, she hesitated briefly, but Matthew's look gave her courage. "Dr. Morgan, I brought the reports you requested," she said, delivering the documents directly to Julia. The attorney quickly examined the contents before addressing those present. "Mrs. Montgomery, we have information here that can clarify what happened to your mare and not just to her." Julia presented the evidence. Comparative analyses of the supplements, altered results, records of purchases of dubious inputs, all pointing to a deliberate scheme that ensured the animal's dependence on prolonged treatments. Dr. Morgan tried to defend himself, alternating between denials and accusations against Paige and Matthew, suggesting a conspiracy to tarnish his reputation. His voice, however, lost strength with each piece of evidence presented. The situation culminated when the Agri-News TV crew managed to enter the reception area and began filming. Reporter Teresa Campbell approached with the microphone. "Dr. Morgan, could you comment on accusations that your clinic has been compromising the health of animals to ensure lucrative treatments?" Cornered, the veterinarian lost his composure. "This is ridiculous. I'm the country's leading specialist. Who is this boy to question my methods? You believe him just because he carries the Anderson name." His desperate words only confirmed the suspicions. The live broadcast captured every second of his professional implosion. In the weeks that followed, the Horizon Equestrian Veterinary Clinic became the target of an investigation that expanded to other institutions. The State Veterinary Medical Board opened proceedings against Dr. Morgan, and dozens of owners began to question previous treatments. At Hope Ranch, the Anderson family property, Little Thunder recovered completely under Paige's care, who was invited by Augustus to supervise the health of the rescued animals. 2 months after the scandal, an unusual movement caught attention. The Anderson family had acquired the land adjacent to the former clinic, now closed, and was building the Hope Rural Animal Treatment Center, with free care for animals of small producers. At the discreet inauguration, Augustus limited himself to cutting the symbolic ribbon and handing over technical direction to Paige, now graduated and determined to transform veterinary practice in the region. To everyone's surprise, Matthew agreed to say a few words. "I just wanted to save my friend Thunder. But I learned that sometimes, when we fight for someone we love, we end up helping many more people and animals." His simple words moved those present, especially when little Thunder, completely recovered, was brought to the courtyard where children from rural schools waited to meet him. The center established itself as a reference not only for quality treatments, but for ethics and transparency. Paige found an envelope without a sender at the reception desk one day. Inside, a single sentence: "Arrogance cost dearly, humility saved a life." The message was framed and placed at the entrance as a reminder of the values that guided everyone's work. A year later, Matthew was invited to speak at a national veterinary medicine conference. Before a packed auditorium, the young man who once hid under a worn cap said with simplicity, "It's not about ponies or prize horses, it's about respect for those who cannot speak." The audience gave him a standing ovation. A student approached. Afterward, "What happened to Dr. Morgan?" He lost his license and faced lawsuits, but the most important thing wasn't the punishment, but the change we created. Today, dozens of animals are saved every month. Thunder's story transformed lives. Little Thunder wasn't just a rescued pony. He had become a symbol of how truth finds its way when defended with courage. For Matthew, the most valuable lesson was in the certainty that he had done the right thing, even when no one was watching. True greatness wasn't in important names or luxurious clinics, but in the ability to defend those who cannot defend themselves. Dear listeners, we hope that the story of Matthew and Little Thunder has touched your hearts. To continue this journey of emotions, we've prepared a playlist with equally captivating stories about the strength of the bonds between humans and animals. Find this special playlist by clicking the button on the left. If this narrative about courage and compassion resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Every day we bring unique stories that explore the complexities of life. Which part moved you the most? Share in the comments, and remember, as Matthew taught us, true greatness lies in defending those who cannot defend themselves. Until the next story,